Hello, students. You know that we are doing chapter 7 Packing, written by Jerome के Jerome. लास्ट वीडियो में हमने देखा कि जेरोम, हैरिस एंड जॉर्ज तीनों फ्रेंड्स कहीं जाने की तैयारी कर रहे हैं. जब पैकिंग की बात आती है तो जेरोम कहता है कि पैकिंग मैं करूँगा. कि जेरोम ये सोचता है कि किसी दूसरे की बजाय वो खुद पैकिंग बहुत अच्छे से कर सकता है. जब जेरोम सारा सामान पैक कर चुका होता है तभी हैरिस पूछता है कि क्या उसने बूट पैक कर लिए. तो ये चेक करने के लिए कि क्या उसने बूट पैक किए हैं या नहीं, वो फिर से बैग को अनपैक करता है. फिर वो खुद सोचता है कि क्या उसने टूथब्रश पैक किया है या नहीं, क्योंकि टूथब्रश एक ऐसी चीज़ है जब वो जर्नी करता है तो उसे ये बहुत ज़्यादा हॉन्ट करती है कि उसके पास में टूथब्रश है या नहीं. वो फिर से सामान को अनपैक करता है. तो बार बार बैग को पैक और अनपैकिंग कर रहा है. लेट्स सी व्हाट हैपन्स द नेक्स्ट. When I had finished, George asked if the soap was in. I said I didn't care a hang whether the soap was in or whether it was not. Didn't care a hang means show no concern or interest. Now, when Jerome closed the bag, George asked if the soap was there inside it. As Jerome was impatient, he replied that he wasn't concerned if it was there or not. And I slammed the bag shut and strapped it, and found that I had packed my spectacles in it and had to reopen it. He closed the lid and strapped the bag. उसने बैग को बंद कर दिया. Then he realized that he had packed his spectacle in it too and had to reopen it again to get them. जब जॉर्ज उससे पूछता है कि क्या उसने सोप रखी है या नहीं, तो वो इसकी ओर कोई ध्यान नहीं देता है कि अब मुझे कोई केयर नहीं कि सोप है या नहीं है, और वो बैग को बंद कर देता है. तब उसे याद आता है कि उसने अपने स्पेक्टिकल्स भी बैग में ही रख दिए और उसे फिर से बैग ओपन करना पड़ता है. इट गोट शट अप फाइनली एट 10:05 PM and then there remained the hampers to do. Hampers means large baskets for carrying food. Finally the bag was closed at 10:05 PM. Then they had to pack the food baskets. Harry said that we should be wanting to start in less than 12 hours time and thought that he and George had better do the rest. And I agreed and sat down and they had a go. Harry said that as they were left with less than 12 hours to leave, कि उन्हें जाने में अब 12 आवर्स से भी कम टाइम बचा है. They should pack the baskets as well. Harris decided that the food basket would be packed by him and George. कि फूड बास्केट हैरिस और जॉर्ज पैक कर लेंगे. Jerome agreed to take his turn for some rest while his friends packed the baskets. They began in a light-hearted spirit, evidently intending to show me how to do it. Light-hearted spirit means to be cheerful. Evidently, clearly, obviously. George and Harris started packing the hampers in a happy mood. They wanted to show Jerome that they could pack well. I made no comment. I only waited. With the exception of George, Harris is the worst packer in this world. Jerome waited for them to create a mess because he considered Harris to be the worst packer in the world. And I looked at the piles of plates and cups and kettles and bottles and jars and pies and stoves and cakes and tomatoes, etc., and felt that the thing would soon become exciting. Jerome looked at the piles of plates, cups, kettles, and bottles, the jars, pies, cakes, and tomatoes, which had to be packed into the hampers. He thought that as the boys would mess up, it would be an interesting thing to watch. It did. They started with breaking a cup. That was the first thing they did. They did that just to show you what they could do and to get you interested. The scene became interesting as they broke a cup at the start. जब उन्होंने पैकिंग स्टार्ट की तो सबसे पहले उनसे क्या टूटा? एक कप. Jerome says that they broke the cup to indicate that they could do that too and to make things interesting. Then Harry packed the strawberry jam on the top of the tomato and squashed it, and they had to pick out the tomato with a teaspoon. जब हम किसी भी हल्की चीज़ के ऊपर भारी चीज़ रखेंगे तो ऑब्वियसली वो क्रैश हो जाएगी. तो ऐसे ही हैरिस ने स्ट्रॉबेरी जैम किसके ऊपर पैक कर दिया? टोमेटोज़ पे. और टोमेटो क्या हो गए? स्क्वैश्ड हो गए. स्क्वैश्ड मीन्स क्रैश or squeeze something with force so that it becomes flat, soft, or out of shape. Harris placed the jar of strawberry jam on the top of the tomatoes. The tomatoes were squeezed by the jar and then they removed the damaged tomato with the help of a spoon. And then it was Joe's turn and he trod on means stepped on the butter. I didn't say anything, but I came over and sat on the edge of the table and watched them. Next, George stepped on the butter. Jerome remained silent but sat on the edge of the table to watch the action. It irritated them more than anything I could have said. His silence irritated his friends. It made them nervous and excited, and they stepped on things, put things behind them, and then couldn't find them when they wanted them. And they packed the pies at the bottom and put heavy things on top and smashed the pies in. जब जेरोम टेबल पे बैठा हुआ है और हैरिस और जॉर्ज दोनों पैकिंग कर रहे हैं तो वो जेरोम को देख करके नर्वस हो जाते हैं, एक्साइटेड हो जाते हैं और थिंग्स को पीछे रखते जाते हैं और जब उन्हें ज़रूरत होती है तो वो मिलती नहीं है और फिर वो दोनों उन्हें इधर उधर ढूंढते हैं और उन्होंने क्या किया? हल्की चीज़ों को नीचे पैक कर दिया और भारी चीज़ों को ऊपर. They became nervous and stepped on the things. They kept things behind them and later when they wanted them, they could not find them. They placed pies on the bottom and kept heavier things on them, which smashed the pies. The upset sold over everything. Upset overturned. उन्होंने सभी चीज़ों पे एवरीथिंग सब चीज़ों पे क्या फैला दिया? ओवरटर्न मीन्स गिरा दिया. Sold. And as for the butter, I never saw two men do more with 1 and 2 pence worth of butter in my whole life than they did. Upset means overturned. The boys overturned the can of salt everything. Jerome says that they created a lot of confusion with the small pieces of butter. Jerome says that they created a lot of confusion with the small piece of butter. He had not seen anyone create so much mess with butter that was worth 1 and 2 pence. Means it was a very small piece as they did. After George had got it off his slipper, they tried to put it in the kettle. It wouldn't go in, and what was in wouldn't come out. They did scrape it out at last and put it down on a chair, and Harris sat on it, and it stuck to him, and they went looking for it all over the room. When George was trying to put it into the kettle, he was unable to do that, and he placed it on a chair. Harry sat on it. The butter stuck to him और बटर उससे चिपक गया जैसे ही वो चेयर पर बैठा. He stood up and both the boys went around the room looking for the piece of butter. I will take my oath I put it down on that chair, said George, staring at the empty seat. Oath to swear upon something. जोश कहता है कि मैं शपथ लेता हूँ, मैं ओथ लेता हूँ कि मैंने I will take my oath I put it down on that chair, said George, staring at the empty seat. George looked intently at the empty seat on which he had placed the butter a few minutes ago. और वो कहता है कि आई ओथ मैं शपथ लेता हूँ कि मैंने कुछ देर पहले ही बटर इसके ऊपर रखा था और अब वो सीट क्या थी? एम्प्टी थी, खाली थी. आई सो यू डू इट माई सेल्फ नॉट अ मिनट अगो, सैड हैरिस. हैरिस भी कहता है आई सो यू डू इट माई सेल्फ नॉट अ मिनट अगो, said Harris. Oath. Oath means to swear upon something. George looked intently at the empty seat on which he had placed the butter a few minutes ago. He took an oath of truthfulness that he had placed it there not even a minute ago. Then they started round the room again looking for it, and then they met again in the center and stared at one another. Once again they searched it in the room. They met in the middle of the room empty handed. वो उसे पूरे रूम में देखते हैं और फिर खाली हाथ दोनों रूम के सेंटर में मिलते हैं. मीन्स उन्हें बटर नहीं मिलता है. मोस्ट एक्स्ट्राऑर्डिनरी थिंग्स आई एवर हर्ड ऑफ, सेड जॉर्ज. George said that the disappearance of the butter was the most amazing things that he had known. So mysterious, said Harris. Harris said that the disappearance of the butter was a mystery. George got round at the back of Harris and saw it. Why, here it is all the time, he exclaimed indignantly. George saw the butter sticking to Harris's back and said that it had been there all this while. Where? Cried Harris, spinning round. Harris turned around and asked where it was. Stand still, can't you? Roared George, flying after him. George flew to Harris's back and asked him to stand still. And they got it off and packed it in the teapot. They removed the butter and packed it inside the teapot. Montmorency was in it all. Of course, Montmorency's ambition in life is to get in the way and be sworn at. Be sworn at means get scolded. Here, Montmorency is the pet dog of Jerome. Jerome's pet dog, Montmorency, participated in all this. His aim was to interrupt everyone and then get scolded for it. If he can squirm in anywhere where he particularly is not wanted and be a perfect nuisance and make people mad and have things thrown at his head, then he feels his day has not been wasted. Squirm means to wriggle or twist one's body. Nuisance, to cause inconvenience or annoyance. Jerome adds that if Montmorency was able to twist into a place and create nuisance by angering people and get things thrown at him in return, he felt that he had utilized the day in a good way. To get somebody to stumble means to trip over a hurdle, ladkhadana, and curse him steadily for an hour is his highest aim and object. And when he has succeeded in accomplishing this, his conceit becomes quite unbearable. Curse means scold. Conceit, here it means his pride in himself. Montmorency's aim was to get people trip over him and scold him. By doing this, he felt that he had fulfilled his aim and would feel proud of his achievement. He came and sat down on things just when they were wanted to be packed, and he labored under the fixed belief that whenever Harris or George reached out their hand for anything, it was his cold, damp nose that they wanted. He put his leg into the jam and worried the teaspoons, and he pretended that the lemons were rats and got into the hamper and killed three of them before Harris could land him with the frying pan. Montmorency sat on the things to be packed. That when George and Harris reached out for things to be packed, जब भी वो जो चीज़ें पैक करनी थी उनको उठाने की कोशिश करते, they were reaching out for his cold wet nose and would bring it forward for them. He stepped into the jam bottle. He shook the teaspoons. He acted as if the lemons were rats and stepped into the hamper to kill these rats. He was stopped by Harris, who hit him with the frying pan. Means अब डॉग मॉन्टमोरेंसी वहाँ पे आ चुका था और वो उन चीज़ों के ऊपर आकर बैठ गया जो कि उन्हें पैक करनी थी, और वो बार बार जब भी कोई भी चीज़ उठाने की कोशिश करते और तो उसकी बार बार डॉग की नोज़ आगे आ जाती। और लास्ट में उसने क्या किया, उसे लगा कि बास्केट के अंदर जो लेमन्स है उसको उसने सोचा ये रेट्स है और उन्हें मारने की कोशिश की। लास्ट में हैरिस उसे फ्राइंग पैन मार करके वहाँ से भगाता है। हैरिस सेड आई एनकरेज हिम, I didn't encourage him. A dog like that doesn't want any encouragement. It's the natural, original sin that is born in him that makes him do things like that. Harris blamed Jerome for encouraging Montmorency for doing all this mischief. कि ये सारी शरारतें करने के लिए जेरोम ने उसे उकसाया है। Jerome says that a dog like Montmorency did not need encouragement. It was born to be like that and act like that. The packing was done at 12:50 and Harris sat on the big hamper. उस बास्केट के ऊपर वो बैठ गया और कहा कि वो ऐसी होप करता है कि कोई भी चीज़ टूटी नहीं होगी। जो सेड दैट इफ एनीथिंग वॉज ब्रोकन इट वॉज ब्रोकन, कि अगर कुछ टूट गया है तो टूट गया। विच रिफ्लेक्शन सीम्ड टू कम्फर्ट हिम। ही ऑल्सो सेड ही वॉज रेडी फॉर बेड, कि आफ्टर ऑल उन्होंने पैकिंग कर ही ली और अब वो सो सकते हैं। वी वर ऑल रेडी फॉर बेड, और हम सब सोने के लिए तैयार थे। हैरिस वॉज टू स्लीप विद अस दैट नाइट, और उस रात हैरिस भी उन्हीं के साथ सोने वाला था। एंड वी वेंट अपस्टेयर्स, और वो ऊपर चले गए। वी टोस्ट फॉर बेड्स। टोस्ट मीन्स थ्रो समथिंग समवेयर लाइटली और कैजुअली। एंड हैरिस हैड टू स्लीप विद मी, और हैरिस किसके साथ सोने वाला था? जेरोम के साथ। ही सेड डू यू प्रीफर द इनसाइड और द आउटसाइड जे? उसने पूछा कि तुम बेड के इनसाइड या आउटसाइड कौन सी साइड सोना पसंद करोगे? आई सेड आई जनरली प्रीफर टू स्लीप इनसाइड द बेड। उन्होंने कहा कि मैं इनसाइड सोना प्रीफर करूँगा। हैरी सेड इट वॉज ओड, कि ये बड़ा ओड है, बड़ा अजीब है। जो सेड व्हाट टाइम शैल आई वेक यू फेलोस, की फ्रेंड्स तुम्हें किस टाइम पे उठाऊँ? हैरी सेड 7। आई सेड नो 6 बिकॉज आई वॉन्टेड टू राइट सम लेटर्स। हैरिस ने कहा 7 बजे, बट जेरोम ने कहा 6, कि मुझे उठ करके कुछ लेटर्स लिखने हैं। हैरिस एंड आई हैड अ बिट ऑफ ए रो। बिट ऑफ ए रो मीन्स एन आर्ग्यूमेंट ओवर इट, कि ये 6 o'clock 7 o'clock उठाने के बाद पे उनके क्या हो गया, आपस में आर्ग्यूमेंट हो गया। बट एट लास्ट स्प्लिट द डिफरेंस एंड सेड 6:30, और बाद में वो कितने बजे उठाने पे एग्री हो गए? 6:30 पे। वेक एस एट 6:30 जॉर्ज वी सेड। George made no answer, and we found on going over that he had been asleep for some time. So we placed the bath where he could tumble into it on getting out in the morning and went to bed ourselves. George did not respond as he was asleep. जॉर्ज ने कोई जवाब नहीं दिया क्योंकि वो सो गया. Harris and George made mischief by placing the bathtub next to George's bed so that he would fall into out as he woke up on the pretext that this way he would take a bath as soon as he got up. जैसे ही वो सो गया, हैरिस और जेरोम ने शरारती की और उसके बेड के बिल्कुल आगे बाथ टब रख दिया ताकि जैसे ही वो उठे सीधा बाथ टब में गिरे. Our lesson is complete. And as I told you, this is an extract from Three Men in a Boat. Thank you, students.